Everyone will find themselves facing obstacles or roadblocks on their journey through life. The mindset we have towards these obstacles determines how they affect us and what we will do about them. By the end of this video, you will know precisely how to see the wins in everything and destroy your obstacles with unrelenting force. What is up, YouTube? My name is Aiden Helfont. I am a freshman Cornell University student who helps you reawaken your love for learning by giving video book summaries and actionable tips on kickstarting your learning journey. In this installment of the Book Squad, I will be giving a video book summary on The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I will start by explaining the mindset Ryan puts forth to attack your problems with a newfound sense of vigor and joy. I will then discuss the 3 pinnacle disciplines of putting this mindset in place. We all have obstacles in our lives. That annoying coworker at work, the chemistry prelim we forgot to study for until the night before. Every obstacle is unique to us. However, the responses they elicit are always the same. Frustration, confusion, helplessness, depression, anger, and most of all, fear. Ryan Holiday advocates that we stop letting these emotions take control of us. Instead of seeing our obstacles as roadblocks, we should take an entirely different approach. As Ryan explains in the book, the obstacle in the path becomes the path. Never forget, within every obstacle is an opportunity to improve our condition. But what system can we use to implement this strategy? Ryan outlines a process that makes use of 3 interdependent, interconnected, and fluidly contingent disciplines: perception, action, and will. The first discipline of learning that the obstacle is the way is perception. Perception is our ability to see and understand the things that occur around us and what those things mean to us. Ryan points out that the problems we face in our lives are not why we feel anxious, scared, depressed, or all the other negative feelings. We feel the way we do because of our judgments of our problems. Ultimately, our perception of the obstacles we face determines if they have a good or bad effect. Marcus Aurelius puts it elegantly when he says, choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. Ryan tells the story of Robin Hurricane Parker to highlight this idea. In the mid-1960s, he was wrongfully accused of a triple homicide and given 3 life sentences at the height of his boxing career. Instead of falling into a toxic cycle of self-pity like most would do, he spent every second of his energy focusing on what he could control: his attitude, his beliefs, and his choices. He read books on law, philosophy, history, and constantly tried to work on his legal case to get out. It took over 19 years for him to be found innocent and let out of prison. When Carter walked out, he simply resumed his life. He took a seemingly bleak situation, being wrongfully accused of homicide, and turned it into a productive period of learning and self-reflection. Most people are incapable of doing this. They would rather see an obstacle in their way and panic. The problem is that when people panic, they make mistakes. They override systems and they ignore rules. Panicking does nothing to help the situation you're in. One incredible way I have started panicking less is by taking an outsider's perspective on my obstacles. We're generally much more kind to others than we are to ourselves. It's funny as we judge others for their actions, but ourselves for our intentions. By imagining your problems as if they were happening to a friend or a close family member, it's vastly less likely that we will panic. So please realize that the way you see the obstacles you face plays a lot larger a role in the outcome than the problem itself. The second discipline of learning that the obstacle is the way is action. Ultimately, perceiving our obstacles in a better light does nothing if we don't act on it afterward. One of my favorite quotes from Anything You Want by Derek Sivers is, "Ideas are worth nothing unless they are executed. They're just a multiplier. Execution is worth millions." Even when our obstacles get the better of us and we fail, it is often better than if we had succeeded. This is because success keeps us doing the same thing, even if it is not the optimal way, whereas failure forces us to alter our path, hopefully for the better. The only way to guarantee we don't benefit from action is if we choose not to learn from the mistakes we have along the way. One of the best examples of this philosophy is Thomas Edison. In 1878, while inventing the light bulb, he was the only man willing to test 6,000 different filaments, including one made from the beard hair of one of his men. He saw every failure, every obstacle, not as a loss, but as something simply bringing him closer to his eventual success. You can treat your failures in the same way as Edison. Stop seeing your failures in isolation, but rather something that forms a greater picture. Every time you fail, you essentially prove that method is an unsuccessful one. So in a sense, failure is just another form of success. After implementing action, one more discipline comes with learning the obstacle is the way. Ryan Holiday explains that will is essentially the quiet humility, resilience, and flexibility that we have when coming across the obstacles in our lives. Will is perhaps the most important of the three disciplines because it determines if we will stick at something for the long term. It doesn't matter how we perceive obstacles or act on them if we don't have the will to keep the process going in the long term. The will is the one thing that is under your control always. Whereas you can try to mitigate harmful perceptions and give all your effort to your actions, those efforts can be thwarted or inhibited. The will is different because it is entirely in you. Luckily, Ryan outlines a couple of techniques in the book to develop the will. The first thing you can do is utilize an ancient Stoic technique called premeditating adversity. Premeditating adversity is the act of envisioning what could go wrong with something in advance before you start. Most of the time, the things that make us stop is not something terrible happening, but something terrible happening by surprise. Epictetus, a prominent ancient Greek philosopher, was known to kiss his daughter goodnight. But every time, he would imagine that it was the last time he would get to do so. Epictetus was able to savor the time he had with his child more because he understood the nature of her mortality. Ryan points out that part of the reason we struggle to fight our obstacles is that many of us act as if we're invincible. If we didn't, we wouldn't spend so much time obsessing over trivialities, trying to become famous, or making more money than we could ever spend in a lifetime. These three disciplines have a profound impact if you implement them into your lives. They allow you to see obstacles in the greater picture of life rather than momentary annoyances that never go away. Life would be boring without obstacles, as we would never have something to call us to change or better ourselves. That is why seeing the obstacle as the way is the best way you can live life. Be sure to check out my video book summary on Happy to learn more about the philosophy of Stoicism. It is another fantastic book that goes into the mindset towards life that will lead to greater happiness and larger fulfillment. As always, I hope you have a fantastic day, and bye-bye.